New information tonight on a story Western Mass News has been following closely. We've learned that Holyoke Soldiers Home Superintendent Bennett Walsh has been issued a termination letter. Good Thursday evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here for Western Mass News at 6. I'm Jordyn Jagolinzer. This comes as the governor releases new changes he plans to make based on the results of the independent investigation into the facility's COVID-19 outbreak. Western Mass News reporter Audrey Russo joins us live with more. Audrey?
Superintendent Bennett Walsh had been on paid administrative leave since the end of March. We've now learned that he's received a termination letter dated yesterday and signed by the governor and the Secretary of Health and Human Services. At Wednesday's press conference, Governor Charlie Baker indicated the state was in the process of firing Holyoke Soldiers Home Superintendent Bennett Walsh, who'd been placed on paid leave since the end of March.
We are also moving to end the employment of Holyoke Superintendent Bennett Walsh.
Western Mass News has now learned that Walsh was issued a termination letter dated Wednesday from Governor Baker and Health and Human Services Secretary Mary Lou Sutters. The letter references the Mark Pearlstein investigation into the home's deadly COVID-19 outbreak. In the letter obtained by Western Mass News, it reads in part, quote, "The findings of the report cite critical failures by you and your leadership team in the preparation for and response to COVID-19. It goes on to say they were terminating his appointment to the position effective immediately. At a press conference today, Governor Baker addressed the changes and a possible reformulation of the home's Board of Trustees.
I don't believe at this point any of them have resigned.
Why not? They are the ones who made the decision to hire Superintendent Walsh.
I think it's a worthwhile question, and we're currently talking to him about it.
And you are you're the person who appoints that Board of Trustees.
Correct. Although honestly, as I stand here, I don't know how many of those folks were appointed by us and how many were appointed previously. They served 7-year terms.
Based on the findings of the Pearlstein report, the state plans to add 2 more seats to the 7-member Board of Trustees, ensuring at least 2 people have health care backgrounds. The state also proposed a new health care position within the Department of Veterans Services to oversee both state-run soldiers' homes. Inside the Holyoke facility, there are plans to implement a permanent staff schedule and an electronic record system, as well as hiring an occupational health nurse. And for the next superintendent, the governor says the hiring qualifications will indicate a preference for a licensed nursing home manager. That appointment will now go through the Health and Human Services Secretary rather than the Board of Trustees. In a statement released last night, Walsh's attorney, William Bennett, said that he was going to be exploring legal options as he feels Walsh should have been due a public hearing before losing a job. Per state officials, we're learning that all of the home's residents who survived COVID-19 are considered recovered now. 76 of the veterans who passed away tested positive for coronavirus. Live in Holyoke, Audrey Russo for Western Mass News.
Audrey, thanks for that live report. State officials unveiling new guidelines for reopening schools in the fall after months of remote learning. Western Mass News reporter Lindsay Kane is live in Springfield with more on how parents are reacting to the changes. Lindsay?
Jordyn, one local parent tells me he's still on the fence about sending his son back to school in the fall after seeing the new guidelines.
It was a bit what we expected.
Massachusetts schools are preparing for what classrooms will look like if they reopen their doors this fall. And some local officials were prepared to see the outline changes.
I wasn't too surprised to see, what came out of the first draft of the reopening guidelines. The masks are required. We expected that. The social physical distancing was lessened, which actually will be helpful, from 6 feet to 3 feet, or at least ideally 6 feet, but at least 3 feet.
West Springfield Mayor Reichelt tells Western Mass News that after surveys were sent to parents in town, opinions are still differing from parent to parent.
I think what we're seeing now is a slight split in folks that feel comfortable with this, want their kids to go back, think we're going to take the right precautions and all that, and then at the same time other ones that are like, I guess we'll see how it goes throughout the summer, but I might want to keep my son at home.
One local parent tells Western Mass News over the phone that he has some concerns with the new guidelines.
I think mask wearing is going to be troublesome, even though I support it. You know what I mean? Like, I think young kids having to wear a mask all day in a secluded space or in one room is going to be a challenge.
He says he can't say for sure if his 7-year-old son will return to the classroom this fall.
I'm on the fence in a way. Like, I want him to have the social interaction, but I'm worried about some of the realities of COVID.
But over in West Springfield, Mayor Reichelt says town officials have work to do to find the best plan for their community.
And what the state's essentially done is said, here's the overall umbrella of how you'll have to operate your schools next year. You can do what you want as long as it meets those guidelines. There's still a lot of questions of how we're going to actually be able to make this happen.
Mayor Reichelt says they are striving to get students back in school, but as safely as possible. Live in Springfield, Lindsay Kane, Western Mass News.
All right, Lindsay, thanks. New details out of Connecticut now, where Governor Ned Lamont also unveiled state guidelines for schools today. The governor saying as long as positive trends continue, students will be back in the classroom this fall. A few highlights of Connecticut's plan. Buildings should be reconfigured to maximize classroom space and social distancing, including use of gymnasiums and auditoriums. All staff and students will be expected to wear face coverings when inside school buildings. And school buses are expected to operate at close to capacity with heightened health and safety protocols. And here's a look at the latest coronavirus case numbers here in the Bay State. The state reporting 226 new cases with a total number of 107,837 in the Bay State. There are 25 more deaths today. The statewide death toll now stands at 7,963. And for more coverage on the coronavirus pandemic as it continues to develop, you can log on to our free streaming Western Mass News app. Now for an update to a story that Western Mass News has been following out of Chicopee. The city's police chief speaking out tonight on a proposal to remove the police department from civil service. Western Mass News reporter Leon Purvis is live outside the Chicopee Police headquarters with more. Leon?
Jordyn, Chicopee Police Chief William Jebb agrees that the civil service needs to be reformed, but he does not think it should be removed from the police department. Now, the civil service oversees hiring and disciplinary actions within the police department, and it could affect the department's ability to fire officers when appropriate. Chief Jebb says he has even received undesirable candidates through the process, but still believes keeping the civil service in place and working together to make improvements is better than removing it altogether.
To change the current system today with the city of Chicopee, there are so many moving parts. There are so many people involved in this. The charter change alone would take the full board, the full council, but on top of it too, you have unions. We're a union shop, so to speak. And that would involve impact bargaining.
The proposal to remove the police department from the civil service is expected to be brought up at the next city council meeting in July. Live in Chicopee, Leon Purvis, Western Mass News.
New at 6, Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno announcing plans to move $250,000 to new police training programs. $125,000 will be reallocated from police department funding. Another $125,000 will match that. That money will then be put into 2 new city programs created by the Office of Racial Equity: the Proactive Street Outreach Workers Program and the Cultural Sensitivity/Mental Health Training Program. The mayor says these 2 programs will be used to enhance and build upon existing police department training.
Sunshine, warm temperatures out there for the evening. We're at 85 degrees right now in Springfield. Our Monarch Sky Cam showing that very strong June sun, some scattered clouds in the distance, and a healthy breeze that we've had most of the afternoon. It's also still incredibly dry, so we've got a very comfortable evening ahead. Right now, temperatures have dipped into the upper 70s through North Adams, Pittsfield, and Cummington. Still a lot of 80s here in the valley, which is pretty typical for this time of day. And we are going to see those temperatures drop off quickly once the sun sets. Dew points remain low for this time of year, 40s to low 50s, dry and refreshing, especially after the start to this week when it was so hot and humid. We have just a couple of fair weather clouds out there, some spotty showers out toward Albany. The Berkshires could have an isolated sprinkle or 2 out there tonight. Most of us will stay dry. If you're doing some outdoor dining, it's a good night for it. Lower 80s expected from Springfield to Northampton and Amherst. A little breezy at times early, but as we get closer to sunset, wind will eventually become light to calm, and that will continue overnight. Temperatures back to the 50s and lower 60s through early tomorrow morning, and another gorgeous day on tap for Friday with highs getting back into the middle 80s. But wet weather chances finally increasing for the weekend.